one of the owners here, and I have such a passion for this because for the longest time, my story is that I struggled with an eating disorder. So from junior high, I would say, until college years, I was on and off binging, anorexia, poor eating habits, and just had a really bad relationship with food and with myself. And I thought that if I was skinny, I would be loved, appreciated, like the awful things that sometimes we put ourselves through. And throughout my journey with an eating disorder, disordered eating, I've created this passion now to help other women understand that it doesn't have to be that way. Not saying that any of you have an eating disorder, maybe you do, or maybe you struggled in the past, and that's why you're here, because we connect on that level. But it's so much more than that, and society tells us to look a certain way, be a certain way, age gracefully, or else it's incorrect. And if you're overweight, you're unhealthy, right? But in reality, we're all so different, and what works for me may work for you or may not. So today's presentation is literally just me being able to be honest with you all, answer some of your questions, and go over some of the common myths, misconceptions, and things that maybe you've heard are healthy or the right way to do things, just to offer perspective. And I'm not coming here to preach to you, to make sure that you do everything exactly like I do, but I have found what works for me, and I hope that something I say today helps you find something that's going to work for you. Sound good? So, okay, well, a little bit more about myself. I am a certified nutritionist, a certified pre- and postnatal coach, a certified personal trainer, and an owner of this studio, as well as an owner of Chaos Collection. I'm a mom of 3, and I have a husband, his name is Jake, and we live in Macomb. So I am busy, and a lot of common excuses or reasons why we can't eat healthy is due to our schedule. I'm just too busy. I can't make the time for it. And another thing we're going to be talking about today is how to make time and make it work for you versus you feeling like you have to do specific things. So, what is one piece of advice about nutrition that's left you confused or frustrated? So you can raise your hand or just shout it out.
What is your take on intermittent fasting?
Okay. So the idea of intermittent fasting, and if it works or it doesn't. And what else? Macros. Okay. Good one. All carbs are bad. Alex, can you dictate? This isn't very sticky.
Bad diets like keto or paleo, and which ones to follow, which ones not, what works, why it works.
Love. Confusion. Shiny objects. What else?
I guess building on macros, if you can eat anything as long as you stay in those macros versus whole healthy foods that may be higher in fat or things like that.
Okay. All right. So if it's macros, I'll hopefully remember what you meant with that. But we can. Thank you. Okay. What else?
Don't eat after 7 o'clock.
Okay. I actually love that one. I'm a fan. We'll talk about it. Don't eat past 7 p.m. Yeah, okay.
Or
Before that. All right.
certain hours before you do it.
Yes. Caffeine? The only person I asked, I love caffeine. She walked in with Melania, I was like, oh, you never gonna go on? Okay. Artificial sweeteners. Artificial sweeteners. Yeah, you probably can't read my writing.
Your suggestion on strength training versus cardio, or the combination of both.
Okay. So she said strength training or cardio or combination of both. Okay. Anybody else?
Supplements like protein shakes.
Okay. Hello. Good morning. Oh, you're fine. We're just starting.
You didn't hear that question very. What was the last?
Supplements. So she was asking like about protein intake or supplements.
If you have to change your diet based on if you have thyroid issues or that's kind of confusing.
Okay. Yeah, doctors really don't help you, right? No.
Take your best.
That's a rant for maybe another day. So diet changes for things like thyroid. Anybody else?
How about hormone balancing?
What is it?
Balancing hormones.
Okay, hormone balancing.
Yeah, better pause.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, we're gonna do another portion.
Trying to lose weight with food sensitivities, so not necessarily dairy, I mean, not necessarily allergies, but just like foods like for, that you have to stay away from for certain things. And then, my other one is dairy, like I know dairies, like yogurts, Greek yogurt, certain dairies have high protein, which is good, but then like I've heard a lot of things that dairy causes inflammation, and dairy's not good for you, so.
Yeah. Okay, so food sensitivities and weight loss. Losing space. Okay, like dairy removal. Sorry. Oh my god, I can't even spell. Remove. There we go. All right, I'm running out of space, but I can fit one more. Anybody else? No? Okay. So this list, and how many of you, is there one or more item on this list that you actually would love to learn about? Or like are confused about? Right? Yeah. I mean, all of them. There are so many misconceptions, experts out there trying to teach their way, which is fine, but maybe it's about what's right for you. And so when we talk about food sensitivities, hormone changes, hormone imbalances, things like that, I'm not gonna be affected in the same way that maybe you are, because I don't have food allergies or whatever. So the thing that I really want you to remember here is not only do we all have all of these questions, because society has really taught us that there's so many different ways. But let's simplify it. And in understanding just the basics of nutrition in general, you'll be able to make better educated decisions and choices for yourself that are gonna help you answer these questions for yourself. We'll get into them, don't get me wrong, but you're gonna hopefully leave here feeling more empowered to make decisions and know what you should be doing or what you want to try at least. Okay, so in saying that, I mean, it leads us to our first point, which is diet culture. So diet culture is essentially everything that we've learned up until this point. It's all over our faces all the time. It's on social media. We were raised this way. is, healthy eating. You saw your mom doing specific diets and then you thought that that was the way to do it. Or maybe your parents weren't really educated about healthy eating and they were just doing their best. And so you learned through time that, oh, maybe, meat from a can isn't the healthiest option, right? And it's like science evolves, we evolve as humans and society in general, but overall, it's just the things that we have heard, learned, or been taught by our family, our friends, social interactions, and the media in order to believe a certain way. But for the most part, diet culture is a billion-dollar industry because people are always striving for perfection. People always want to change something about themselves because truly we are our worst and worst critics. I'm sure, and that's not what this workshop is about, but I'm sure you can look in the mirror or you have today when you were getting dressed and you complained about one thing. Maybe your pants weren't fitting the way that you wanted them to, or you wish that your shirt laid a little bit differently, or whatever it might be. And at what point do we learn that it's actually tying together our relationship with ourselves and with food and with what we think or what we hear we're supposed to be like? And so when we start to really think about what feels good for us and what works for us is when we can truly start to get results, number one. And number two, it becomes a lifestyle, which is so much different than a fad diet or a diet in general. Now, there's a difference between somebody who has food sensitivities or who can't eat specific things and allergies, or somebody who has thyroid changes or hormonal imbalances that they're supposed to stay away from specific things because it can cause inflammation or it makes you feel bad. But it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And that's another thing that a lot of us feel is if you don't follow a specific plan, you're a failure. I know I have felt that way and been discouraged after feeling, oh man, like I missed the mark here. And then what? It leaves you upset, maybe it leaves you binging on food or overeating or drinking in order to soothe. And so that is another societal norm that we've been kind of trained to think that is normal, which it's not. So today, we're hopefully going to break free from a lot of things and understand that we all think the same because that's our world. And we are not in control of everything around us. So what can we have control of? Our thoughts, what we consume, and how we act and share with the world. So then breaking free of diet culture and understanding that restrictive diets and things that are most common aren't necessarily the way to go. And I shared a little bit at the beginning about how I struggled with an eating disorder for a very long time. And I still, to this day, even standing in front of you today, preaching and as an expert in nutrition, I still struggle sometimes because it's a constant thing that you have to unlearn. And it's not something that you just wake up one day and it's gone. It is something that truly is a lifestyle that you have to make the decision every single day to move forward, to do things better, to educate yourself, and I'm so proud of you for being here, to make decisions that are going to help your long-term success. So for most of us, we have been told about diets and specific things that we should do, right? I mean, we talk about keto, we talk about paleo, fad diets, which we will get into a little bit more detail on those, but we've been taught a certain way. But for a lot of people, the issue becomes when you're following a diet or when you're doing a specific thing, it becomes an obsession. And then it consumes you. We've seen the people who do shows or like bodybuilders and stuff like that, and are walking around with Tupperware, and like, yeah, that's great in the season of life, but that's not life. And a lot of people become obsessed with tracking or being restrictive on things, and it becomes this idea of, I cannot have this, or else I won't get to where I want to go. And that doesn't have to be the case. For most of you, you can enjoy your life, enjoy food, and as long as you understand balance. But for some, that isn't something that is natural, or maybe that's not a trait that you own right now. But it is something you can learn and grow with, and understand that it doesn't have to be this all or nothing. It can be a balance. So when we talk about balance, what is balanced eating? Like when I say balanced eating, like, does that give you anything?
It just helps you to eat like your food groups, that you should have these food groups.
Yeah.
It's protein, grains, and vegetables.
Yep. So she just said balanced eating, it means you need to get like specific food groups.
I'd say everything in moderation. So it's not what you do once in a while, it's what you do every day.
Mm-hmm. Right? Anyone else? Yeah.
I know I'm getting takeout, I may have like maybe healthier choices like during the day to know that like if I eat something for dinner that I don't typically eat, I kind of balance out my day to make sure I'm still getting vegetables.
Yes. So it's the idea of overall, not just your plate, but it's the idea of balance, it's like a balancing act. So I can have this if I do this. I can enjoy this if I know that I'm gonna make up for it, not with a workout, we're not like punishing ourselves, right? We're not gonna starve ourselves all day, so we have a big dinner, like I'm sure a lot of us have done that. Guilty, right? But that's not it, because that creates that all or nothing mentality, that we have to do things a certain way in order to get results. And you might be sitting here right now, and especially if you are 40s and above, and thinking back to all the diets that you've tried, and you're like, now look at me. Like, I wish that I could go back when I said I was fat and be that person now, right? And so what does that tell us? Is that we're on this constant cycle of trying to get to a place. But in reality, if we think about it in the sense that this is a lifestyle change, and this is the way that I'm going to choose to live my life, versus I have to lose this weight, I have to get rid of it. It's like, how can I be healthy today? What choices can I make knowing that, I'm going out to dinner with my girlfriends and I'm gonna have truffle fries, filet, wine, tequila, like that's all the things I had for dinner last night. But like I showed up this morning, I worked out, I am still here preaching to you all. Because I truly believe that there is a way to find balance in your own life. And when we talk about balance, yes, it's what's on your plate, but it is the idea of what are my choices that are going to be greater, healthier, or going to make me healthier in one whole day, in one whole week, versus, okay, I need to lose 5 pounds before Friday. How can I restrict myself, or overwork out, or fast, or whatever we all heard, in order to lose weight quick. And I work with clients one-on-one, and that's one of the major things that I have to continuously remind people is it's not a quick thing. If you're doing it right, it's not quick. Unless you're very overweight, very unhealthy before you get started, and then you start implementing these healthy habits, and you're like, oh my God, I lost 15 pounds like in 2 weeks. Like that is not realistic for the general public, especially as an aging woman. Because your hormones change, it becomes a lot harder for you to lose weight, and the things that you once did don't work anymore. Because more than likely, it was a restrictive diet, or you're cutting carbs, you're doing things that you hear work, but is it really something that is sustainable forever? Myth 1, you need to eat less in order to lose weight. We've all heard that, right? So the idea of eating less, especially as you age, because that's where we're all going, is understanding that as you do, age, your metabolism starts to slow down. So food is energy. And if you're taking away food, eating less, your metabolism just naturally is already decreasing, but you're removing your energy, your gas for your car, you're not going to run properly, you're not going to get the results you want. And so we have to remove that idea of I have to eat less in order to lose weight. And I'm not saying that we're gonna go and have like huge plates of food, because that's portion control, we'll talk about that too. But it's a sense of if you do that long term, you get to a place where your body will stall, and that's essentially what a plateau is. What you're doing isn't working. And then as somebody who experienced an eating disorder, you gain weight very quickly once you start doing things right, or eating correctly. And use that as a reminder that if you're starving yourself and you're wondering why you're not getting results, I don't even eat. It's because your body needs more than that. And so it is going to take time for you to get to a place where you can start feeling like the effort you're putting in is actually working. Have you felt that way before? Like you maybe did a restrictive diet and then started eating normally again, and then you went back to the diet and you're like, this isn't working. Why isn't this working? This worked 2 years ago or last year, right? Well, it's because our bodies change, and as the time clocks, right, the time, move the clock, you get it. As it goes on, like our bodies are changing every single day. And so we need to understand that you have to fuel your body in order to get results. Tracking every bite is the only way to succeed. Or tracking my food or my macros and confusing myself is the only way I'm ever going to get results. Now, I'm a firm believer that being aware of what you're eating by tracking is a very powerful tool. Do I think that it's for everyone? No. I do not track my own food because I become obsessive. And so for those of you, but I'm at a place now where I just know what I should be doing. But when I get to a place where I'm like, man, I'm, not feeling good. My workouts, I'm not really able to push myself like I could. What's going on? What's different? And that's when I'll pull out that tool of being able to track and know, okay, so this was the last 3 days, this makes sense because I'm not eating enough protein or carbs or whatever. So I think especially for beginners, using a tool like MyFitnessPal is something that is so valuable. But if you already know that your brain, you'll become obsessive about it, that's not what you need to do. Even though I think it's a great tool. There is science to weight loss. If you eat less than you burn off, you're in a deficit, right? And so that's when you're supposed to lose weight. But for some of us, that doesn't happen that way. So you have to figure out, how can I fuel myself in a way that I lose weight or get results? And so for some of you, it might be a lower carb diet. For some of you, it might be a high protein diet. For some of you, it might be a balanced approach. But these are the things that you have to be aware of in order to try it and make sure that you gave it your best shot. Like, that didn't really work for me. But if you're noticing that you're becoming obsessive about things, then one of my recommendations is to always track colors. And I learned this from, I was a beachbody coach for the longest time. And this was the 21-day fix. You guys heard about it? Okay, you use these like specific containers, and every color was like you know, had a certain amount allotted for the day, and then that's how much you eat. And it would fit in the container and you eat it. And it's such a great concept because it removes the idea that you have to be tied to your phone or something like that. You can visually see, okay, meat is red, vegetables are green, right? And it's however much, and I'll show you what a can motion so that you can learn too. But it's like, it's something that has been ingrained for me, that now I see something and I'm like, am I getting enough protein? Yes. Am I getting enough vegetables? How many of these have I had today? And so the idea of tracking versus just counting is a little bit different, because you can visually see, okay, so this is a salad, it's probably like 3 cups of vegetables. That's 3 greens of your day, and you're at least supposed to have 4, like you're winning. And that becomes a different approach. So if that idea excites you, it is when you go into portion control, it's 4 greens is your vegetables, and then you get 2 to 3 fruits a day, and then I do 2 fats, but everybody's different, so if you're, you know, heavier, you're gonna need more. And then you're gonna make sure that you also get carbs. And carbs, a serving of carbohydrates is only a half a cup for most things, which is so sad, because it doesn't fill you up. But when you get to a place where you start to learn these ways of focusing on what feels good versus what you feel like you have to do because your app tells you, it becomes a different lifestyle that you're living. And it's life versus restriction. Okay, so we're gonna do an activity, and I'm gonna pass out, if you need a pen, just let me know. I'm gonna pass out one of these. If you can actually, because I'll tell you why I'm doing this, just start passing it around. Just take like, you only need one, but if you want to take like a few at a time, you can. Okay, so it's a simple but powerful exercise that I think is going to be eye-opening for a lot of us. It's think back to your earliest memories of when you started kind of figuring out about food and choices and dieting, and maybe your mom was on a constant cycle of exercising and jazzercise and all these things, and you watched her go through it. Or body image issues. So memories of that. What's one thing you were told or believing about dieting or food that has stuck with you your whole life? Maybe it's something you know that you shouldn't think, but it's like something you just can't get away from. Or like if you struggle with an eating disorder or body dysmorphia or anything like that, you look in the mirror and you're like, gosh, I lost 100 pounds and I still feel, right? Something like that. Carbs are bad, you have to finish everything on your plates, or you can't eat after 7 p.m. It might feel silly or small, but these beliefs often shape who we are today and why we are the way we are, and what we believe. So on the sticky note, I didn't tell you what to do yet. On the sticky note, I want you to write down your one belief that you know deep down it isn't serving you anymore. Doesn't feel good, it's something that kind of like always creeps up, especially if you're like starting something new, you're like, well, I always fail anyway, so what's the point? And stuff like that. Something you want to let go of, but it feels hard because it's something that's like so ingrained in your mind and like your being, because this is how you were raised. Write that on a sticky note. And then you're gonna come up and you're gonna put it on the mirror somewhere. Oh, yeah. Who else needs a pen? I don't even know if they work.
What was it said?
It's just like, and it's just one thing. So one thing that's been like ingrained in your mind, or, you know, something that you know is not good. Like, it doesn't make you feel good, like it kind of hurts you. Like if you were to say that to your daughter, right? Or if you were to hear your daughter, or, you know, somebody in your life, your best friend, if you don't have kids, or your sister or whatever, if you were to hear them say these things, you'd be like, that's not nice. Like, why do you even feel that way? And you can stick it up here. I'm gonna throw it in the water. So making sure you're putting your stickies next to somebody else's, or if you see that somebody else kind of said the same thing, you can put it by it.
Give some more ideas. It's my idea.
I'll start reading. I'll start reading them, and feel free to continue to put them up at any point after. You can come take a picture after. Like, the reason why I want to do this is truly to just show you that some things that you believe is hard to get rid of, or it's something that you carry your entire life. And if you wake up tomorrow and you're like, okay, I'm gonna make some changes Erin suggested, and then it gets hard and these come back up, this is very, very common to feel discouraged. But you can't change everything that you've always known in one day, in 1 week, in a month. It takes time. And so when I, initially shared that I still struggle with thoughts about my body, about the way that I overate, or the things that I did that I could have been better at, that is something that stays with us forever. And it's because of things like this. So if I want a second helping of something, it's not necessarily bad. Don't eat more than 12,000 calories a day. Cutting out sweets or desserts completely, like never having them. Why? What life is that? Eating all your food on your plate before you have dessert. My belly is large, belly fat. I don't feel happy unless I'm thin. I was happier then. Not the case. Starved myself and took diet pills. Have to finish everything on your plate. These markers suck. You must restrict your diet always. Deprivation equals weight loss. All or nothing mindset. Carbs and sweets are not good for you. And if you have more, you can absolutely come and put them up. And the reason why this is so important is to understand ourselves and why we do the things that we do continuously, because it usually feels like a vicious cycle, right? You do something, you do great, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, I have this social event, or Christmas is here, and all of these activities. Now I'm 10 pounds heavier, and my goal for 2024 was to lose weight, and I gained it all at the end of the year, and now I'm back to square one in 2025, right? Like, it's so common. But in order for us to change things like this that we've had for our lives, we have to create a lifestyle shift, a complete overhaul of what we do in order to believe that we can have weight loss, feel healthy, look in the mirror and be happy with what we see. Okay, sorry. So understanding popular diets, these ones. So keto, paleo, multiple fat diets that we've always heard, right? So keto, does everybody know what that is? Keto is essentially really high fat diet, low carb, if not at all. And then a lot of people do it wrong because they're eating bacon, they're eating all the good stuff, and then their cholesterol is awful, or they have like a stroke or a heart attack, which I've seen happen to somebody very close to me. And that is, if your doctor is telling you to eat a specific way because of an ailment or of, something that you're dealing with, that's different. But to just try a diet because you see this really fit girl on social media and you're like, well, she follows keto, like it must work. Okay, no, because what does this do? It restricts, gets you into unhealthy habits, and it's not sustainable unless you plan on eating that way for the rest of your life. And if that's not the case, then what's the point? Same thing goes with anything. Paleo is not similar, but like you're eating just like natural foods. And it's a lot of meat, you have your vegetables and starches, but it's got to come from the ground or whatever. No processed foods, which is not a bad concept. But it's hard to absolutely remove processed foods. Like everything is processed nowadays, and it's tough. It's tough to know what's healthy and what's not because we're not in control unless you're growing your own food, which we live in Michigan and there's a snow dirt pile across the street. So these things are creating, again, the idea of restriction versus a balanced approach. So do I want you guys to experience that? No. I do believe that there is a way, and balanced eating is it. And when we talk about balanced eating, it's your plate, it's your lifestyle, it's everything that you choose needs to be more than often healthy. And that's it. It's very simple when you break it down like that. But when we get, all of this other information, or maybe we're, struggling with allergies or food sensitivities all of a sudden, and you're like, what the heck, I was doing so good. Now my doctor's telling me to completely remove carbs. And God love doctors, right? They have a purpose. But they did not go to school for nutrition, and that's not their expertise. And unfortunately, it should be a way bigger piece in education for doctors, physicians, anybody. But for the most part, they'll tell you a blanket statement like, oh, maybe try that keto diet, and that'll probably work for you. I know it works for this other patient of mine with a similar issue. Okay. But then they don't give you the tools. They might give you a list of foods you can eat. Remember, you said that to me. Here's what you can eat. And it's like 10 things. And you're like, that's it? What am I supposed to do with this? I don't know how to make recipes. Like most people do not think that way, where it's like, okay, I have this, and this. Like, how do I make a meal out of this? No, you're probably like extremely frustrated and annoyed that you don't really have the tools, but they told you that this is going to work for you, so you must do it, right? But again, that's creating that sense of all or nothing. I can't do this, I have to do this. My doctor told me that this has got to be the way. That's fine. But if it's truly for an ailment, right? Try it and learn for yourself what's going to work, how to make it work in your life. Not necessarily like, I have this list of foods, okay, so I'm just going to eat like a bowl of steamed vegetables because that's what's here, How can we spice it up a little bit? What can we do differently to like actually make it enjoyable? Because that is a huge part of our culture, our society, is we celebrate with food. We go out when we get a promotion and we celebrate with a nice dinner, or, wine, or this or that. We have dessert when it's our birthday, we sing it in front of a cake. But when we're looking at the cake and we're like, I can't eat that because my dog is not on my list, well, we gotta pick and choose here. And so when we think about things in that sense, where it's like, okay, that's a balanced eating approach. I'm gonna eat healthy all day, and I'm gonna watch what I eat for the rest of the week, and I'm making a conscious choice to enjoy something that I know I love. That's the difference between I'm on a diet and this is my life now. Do you see that difference? Whereas I know that I have a social event next Friday. I know the restaurant, I know the menu, because I already looked it up. I chose what I'm gonna eat. I'm not even gonna tease myself and look at the menu again or look at their specials. Because if I go to that restaurant and I've already had a glass of wine or whatever, you're like, ooh, but this cheeseburger sounds way better, but I know that I was supposed to have, the salad. Like, you're probably gonna choose a cheeseburger. When you go into things with a strategy and a plan, it becomes so much easier for you to make choices. Because you feel like you're in control. When you feel out of control, what do? You binge, you're eating everything, you're like trying to soothe yourself. Because that's how we're trained, right? I reward my kids with food all the time. And I'm like, shit, this probably isn't good. And my girls, can we go to McDonald's? I'm like, no, like it's our treat, I'm like, but what do? That's the way that our society is. And I wish that it was healthier, but it's not. So what can you do, and how can you make those conscious choices? And that's the idea of lifestyle versus diet. So thinking about like a balanced approach over restriction, like that's like the major key that it's a great idea. Okay, so let's talk about the myth that carbs are bad. You guys know, like, macronutrients are literally how your body functions. Macros. It's proteins, it's carbs, it's fats, and proteins, carbs, fats. Why am I blanking here? Okay, your carbs are necessary, and the idea of carbs being bad is because of diets like this, where we've learned that there's a difference between eating a slice of white bread and getting yourself a bowl of brown rice. Conscious choice. There's a choice that you can make to have better for you options, obviously. And so that is what you really should be focusing on versus all carbs are bad. You can't have them. What does that teach you? It's restriction. We're trying to remove the idea of restriction away from our brains and our mindsets, and that is something that you will continuously have to tell yourself. So when we talk about carbs, there's different carbs. So you have a complex carb and a simple carb. A complex carb, they're good for you. These are the ones that are going to be like your whole grains, your, some starches, sweet potatoes, brown rice, things like that. That is going to be like slower processing carbohydrate for your body. That is going to be something that you don't really feel the jolt of energy and then a crash after. Simple carbs are things like bread, like sugary treats and desserts and things like that. Like, obviously, there's a difference between what is healthy or healthier and what is not. And so you can make the choices of what is going to be better for me in that sense, instead of saying all carbs are bad. I have so many pages here. So the idea of the 80-20 rule, or you probably heard of 90-10, right? This is the idea of a healthy lifestyle, where you can enjoy yourself the 20% of the time, and then you have to be healthy, healthier, make positive choices in the 80% of the time. That's the way I live my life. And I've truly felt so much better doing it this way instead of focusing so much on hitting the mark. Because that obsession not only, interferes with your brain, but it also interferes with your relationships. It interferes with your social activities. You're not going to want to go out if it doesn't fit in your plan because you feel guilty. That guilt, that shame, that overwhelm is something that so many people experience, and we do it to ourselves because we have an unrealistic idea or expectation that we're supposed to live this perfect life, which is not living life at all. And so when you think about a balanced approach, you want to think about what in the month ahead, what does your life look like? What social activities do you have planned? What is your setup going to be for your week? And then you can start to reverse engineer and backtrack your time and the things that you're going to do to be mostly healthy, your 80%, and then be able to enjoy the 10 or the 20 or the 15, whatever you decide, and not feel any emotion other than enjoyment. When we can break free of the idea of that all or nothing, or I have to do this way, or else, it makes us feel a certain way, and it brings up emotions, and then it becomes that vicious cycle where we're feeling good, we're on a high, and then we're upset. We wake up the next day, maybe you got a little hangover from food or alcohol, and you're like, I blew it, right? We've all been there. But when you make the conscious choice to go out, enjoy your time, enjoy your life, on that smaller percentage, it feels so much better. And so how can you look at your schedule and be able to decide, how can I make the choice to enjoy today? Not a whole day, maybe it's just a meal. Does it have to be like something that is going to derail you 1,000%? It's not a weekend of cheats, it's a dinner, it's lunch, it's brunch, You're making the choice versus you going into something unprepared, saying I'm on a diet, and then being like, well, everybody's doing it, Once you hear everybody else's order, and you're like, okay, well, I can't order a salad now, right? No, you can, but it can be a choice too, where you don't want to eat that way or live that way. So when we talk about, a statistic that I found was so crazy. 95% of people who diet regain it back within 3 to 5 years. That's huge. 95% of people who diet gain it back. Why?
Because they're not making a lifestyle choice.
Thank you. And that's what I'm going to keep repeating over and over again. Because we shouldn't be focusing on these diets and things that we've heard and all of that. We should be leaning in and knowing realistically, I want to live a healthy lifestyle. How can that work for me versus me work to have a healthy lifestyle? Find things you enjoy. Find foods that actually make you happy. If you don't want to eat Brussels sprouts, don't eat Brussels sprouts. If you've heard that something is healthy, you like them?
Yes.
I like them too, that's okay. I like
And
them.
I had a more Brussels sprout salad for breakfast, so.
Oh my God, I love it. Okay, this is Johnny Black's, they do really good Brussels sprout salad.
And I just made it.
Oh, well, try it, it's good. But So if there are specific things that maybe you've heard that you want to try, you're like, I hate that, why try it? It's not gonna work for you because you know why? You're gonna be miserable. You're not gonna be happy. And what keeps a healthy lifestyle sustainable is finding joy in what you're doing. Finding movement that you like, taking classes, coming to Ohana, finding a community, feeling like you're a part of something more than just you. Those things are healthy lifestyle changes that you can begin to implement that will truly make an impact in your life. And it might seem silly, it might not feel or like anything, or maybe it's stuff you already know and you're like, but it truly makes such a big difference when you're making those conscious choices most of the time. And it allows you to have the space to enjoy the other times without the guilt. Portions. Portion control and healthy eating. Macros, these are all very similar. There's a way that your weight, your height, your age, everything goes into the science of you actually losing weight. And that's why macros and tracking macros are so popular. Because it works if you do it right. But if that's not your mentality and that's not something that you can do or you want to do, then don't. But there is a way to know this plate is overflowing with food and maybe my stomach is so full I have to unbutton my pants. Maybe I ate a little bit too much. What is an actual portion? Because Americans' portion is so different. I mean, you've been to Italy, right? Like, it's so different. And the food quality is very different here. But that's what we've learned and that's all we know. But how can we make better educated choices? By coming to stuff like this. I appreciate you being here. Using your hand, you can easily learn about portion sizing. What is supposed to be the size of your palm on your plate? Protein. Yep. Protein. If I did a fist, what's this supposed to be? Vegetables. Yep. So a serving of vegetables should look like this. If you, oh wait, no, this is carbs. Yeah, no, this is carbs. They want to punch it, right? Carbs. All right, here. There we go. Vegetables. Your serving of vegetables should be the size of your hand when you do this. So you don't have to be this crazy person with your portion control containers or your measuring cups or your scale at a restaurant. You can easily start to eye things. Your thumb. Back. So like the tip of your thumb, not like your whole entire thumb. It's like, it's kind of sad, but. Has anybody actually measured like peanut butter? I'm a big peanut butter fan. When I actually had to like measure it, I'm like, that's a tablespoon? No, I'm eating 14 of that. One of them. Okay. Cupped hand is treats, snacks, pretzels, things like that. You're probably not even measuring that, right? You're just opening the bag and consuming. Yeah. What?
I said if you only do it once, you can only hold so much.
Yeah, true. Some bag, just take a cup. And then the tip of your thumb for cheese and condiments as well. Why does this work? Because it's proportionate to your body size, right? My hand is bigger or smaller than you in the room, and a child's hand is going to be smaller than an adult hand. And so when we look at perspective, when we start thinking about food and plating and balanced eating, it's like, oh, okay, well, this is how much we should be eating, right? And again, that brings us away from the idea of restriction and just being more conscious about what we're doing, just even using our hands. I don't even know what time it is, guys. It's 12:30. Oh, okay. All right. So how to make healthy swaps? Obviously, this is going to be a huge thing. Is if you are somebody who religiously gets Taco Bell, how can you recreate that Crunchwrap Supreme to still enjoy it? Because there are recipes on Pinterest, and I made them, they're delicious. How can you find things in your life that you love, and maybe you have it once in a while, but maybe you find a healthier alternative. And that is something that I am a huge fan of, is I never want to say I can't have something that's not unhealthy. I love burgers, fries, all things. But when I'm cooking at home, I would much prefer to make something that I want, that sounds good, that I want to eat, or else I will continue to have the craving until I get it. That's my mentality. And so those of you that are the same, it's like I should have just had the real things. I just ate this bag of baked Lay's that is okay, right? It satisfies the crunch, but it's not the same as eating a bag of Ruffles. If I would have just had a handful of Ruffles and measured it and controlled myself, then I would have been able to satisfy that craving. So for me, I found ways to swap and find healthier, healthified is what I like to call it, ingredients, recipes, and things like that. And Pinterest and TikTok, if you already have it, is an amazing tool to find healthy recipes that you would have probably never thought of. Even if you have ingredients at home, you're like, I have chicken, what can I make with chicken? Let me find some recipes. Pick what sounds good. That's a healthy one, right? And when you're going into these like healthy changes and you're starting to focus on, portion control and balanced approach and really trying to find the things that work for you, you can then, it becomes second nature. It doesn't always have to be something you're working on or figuring out. One day it'll just click. And it will be something that you don't really have to think about anymore. Versus you always having to stress or have a plan or that sort of thing. You can be more go with the flow and it feels like it's just right. That's the place where, again, that lifestyle change is supposed to take you to. Nutrition doesn't have to be complicated. Small intentional changes lead to really big results over time. You might not think that swapping your Coke to, instead of having it every day, you're having it every other day. Instead of having it every other day, you then change it to once a week. You have no idea the compound effect that is going to take, and then next year, this time around, you might not be in the position that you might be in right now. I'm not saying that anybody is. But think about that. What are things that you know you shouldn't be doing, eating, consuming, and how can you just minimize it just a little bit? And live a healthier life more often than not, and create healthy habits that actually feel good for you. All right, so we did have some questions. I did open up the floor to questions in my Instagram and then also here for specifics. Let me just go through these ones, and then if you have dire questions or anything that you want to ask, anything specific to you, absolutely ask. I know we're already on time. And then I can go into these two. Okay, so one thing. Tips to reach protein goal that doesn't include dairy. Meat is an obvious choice, meat and fish. When you have a portion of meat, you can have maybe 5 ounces instead of 4. That bumps it up, obviously. Eggs, egg whites, lentils, chickpeas, black beans, quinoa, edamame, tofu, tempeh, which is disgusting. Quinoa, jerky, nuts and seeds, nut butters, protein powders that are vegan or plant-based. Protein bars, watch out for your sugars. Chia seeds and hemp seeds all contain protein. How might somebody feel if they're low in protein? Fatigue, weakness, muscle loss, hair loss, nail issues, frequent illnesses, slow recovery, swelling, brain fog. That's a lot. And as you age, protein is so important. Not to get jacked, right? It's to literally just help you function. Benefits in protein for aging women. Maintaining your muscle mass because you lose it without you even trying. Even if you work out, you lose muscle mass at a rate of 3 to 5% per decade. That's insanity. So it becomes harder for you to gain muscle and like see visual change, right? Age-related muscle loss. It supports bone health, boosts metabolism, improves hair, skin, and nails, enhance recovery and repair, so you're not going to be, once you start working out, you're not going to be sore all the time if you're eating the correct amounts of food and protein. Balancing hormones, boosts immune function as well. Thoughts on intermittent fasting? Personal preference. I don't think anybody, if you're hungry, should not eat just because it's not your window. I think if you're hungry, your body's trying to tell you something. Eat. But there are ailments and things, diseases and things that this is recommended for. But for women specifically, I've heard a lot of research that this is not good for women. For men, it's a whole different story. Obviously, we talked about all carbs are bad, if it fits in your macros, yes. So that is the idea that you can eat whatever you want and still get results as long as it fits within your macro calculations. What's important to you is the question to ask when you're thinking about that. Just because is health, longevity, is that more important than food? You know? So again, it's personal preference. Can you have a day where you're eating maybe not so great, but it fits in your macros and you're like, oh, it's a win. Yeah, sure. If that makes you feel good, you know? But doing that over time, it might not continue to work in the same way. Don't eat past 7 p.m. or before bed. I love the idea of not eating like 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed. Why? Because your body has to process and digest, and your body does work when you're resting, which even if you eat before bed, you can digest your food, but it's very slow because you're not moving. And so you might wake up sluggish, you might wake up bubble guts, you know, not feeling your best. And that makes it harder to get moving and want to do things, right? So I do believe that this is a good thing, not eating before bed, but I say 2 to 3 hours is sufficient enough. If you're going to bed at 10 p.m., you're going to shut off by 8, 7 p.m. If you go to bed at midnight, obviously it's going to be later. So it's just that window, I would say. Again, that's just personal thought and preference. Caffeine intake, that's my advice. So I have a love-hate relationship with this question because I unfortunately drink more caffeine than a human should drink. Okay? Which is no, it's not healthy. But it's my advice. Okay? So the only thing with this is as we age, it does affect you differently. So if you're noticing a cup of coffee keeps you up the entire day, you're not sleeping good through the night, 1 cup of coffee can do that to you. It's about how your body reacts to it and metabolizes it. And so you might notice when you creep up to your 40s or maybe you're there, you're over that, and I cannot drink caffeine, it happens. And so, yes, I think it's fine, but if it's affecting your quality of life later in the day, or you're not sleeping, then you want to think about that and potentially minimize or remove. Strength training and cardio combo, this is a personal question for each one of you. Your body reacts differently. As you age, definitely weight training is so important, and I think that you should weight train more than you do cardio, 100%, no matter what age you're at. But the capacity and what you're strength training and how you're moving is different. So some people might thrive doing total body workouts 2 days a week. Some people might, fine, thank you. Some people might not. But definitely trying to balance it out, getting at least 4 days of activity a week. And then activity outside of that is just wellness. So walking, like yoga, doing things that are active and getting outside, riding your bike, obviously not right now. I love to rollerblade, like things like that. Like I don't count that as a workout, that's just like a bonus. So continuously moving, not staying sedentary is going to be, a great option. If you work all day and you sit at a desk, those walking desks are incredible. It's a great addition and something that you can start to add that is low impact and doesn't make you not be able to do your job. I mean, it might take some getting used to, but getting used to. Okay, so hormone balancing, obviously that is something that is relevant to our community just because we are all an aging population, and we're all women. Our bodies, as we age, shifts, changes, all the things. And it's not something that we have to live with. Because how many of you have gone to the doctor and they're like, oh, that's what it is, like you're premenopausal or you're going through menopause. Sorry. Like, okay, well, there has to be something that I can do to make myself feel better. We're hosting a workshop March 21st, and it is free. And we have 2 physical therapists that are amazing resources in regards to women's health, women's aging population. And then we also have 2 doctors coming in. And they're homeopathic, all natural doctors, coming in to talk about hormone changes, hormone imbalances, women's health. And they're going to be better resources than me. I will be getting a certification to talk more about that. But all I know, and I'm sure you guys know, is that as we age, shit happens. Things change. Things change, our bodies change, right? And so again, it's finding what's going to work for you. Staying away from anti-inflammatory foods, anti-inflammatory activities, things that are going to cause you to feel right. We want to stay away from that more often than not. Okay. I think supplements. We didn't talk about that. There's good quality products out there, and there's bad quality. I would definitely say if you're looking for supplement recommendations, to look at the ingredients, what your goal is. So if it was specific to protein powders, this is what you were asking. I would definitely look at where's the source of protein coming from. Is it whey? So whey is going to be your, dairy option, and then or is it vegan? How does your gut feel with each one of those? And then just the quality and all the ingredients. And so just do your research on that for sure. So diet changes for things like thyroids and hormones and things, that is going to be relevant to you personally. So if your doctor suggested, again, like I said before, like a certain list of foods that you should have or shouldn't have, it is about removal of things more often than not. For specific like tools and resources for that, it's all individual based. So I would recommend doing something like MyFitnessPal and seeing where you're supposed to be at on the recommended, carbs, proteins, fats, and then whatever you're supposed to have or what your doctor tells you to stay within range of food items and things, then you can start creating a plan based off of that. Does anybody else have specific questions that I did not answer? I know we're over time. Yes?
I have a question, I just want to say a couple things. So one of the physicians who is doing the march, she is my doctor, she's amazing.
Okay. Christina? Okay.
And then the other thing that I've learned over the past year is I struggle with like a lot of bloating. I literally felt 7, 8 months pregnant sometimes, that's the way I look. And discovered that it was related to a bacteria and some issues that I was having in my digestive system. So it's not necessarily, I mean, it was related to food, but it was mostly related to the bacteria. So, I mean, I'm still bloated, but I don't want to be pregnant anymore. So, if you find a doctor who can address that, because it requires some blood and stool testing, you just feel like I can't get rid of it.
Yeah, no, I've seen a gastro doctor, so they did all the testing, they test your stool. They were gonna do a stomach scope on me, but since I did that breath test to see if there is a bacteria in the stomach, it showed a negative, so they didn't have to do scoping. But I know what you're saying, but yeah, I felt so pregnant, but I noticed dairy was giving me that issue. So I felt like I had more, prebiotics and probiotics. So to me, I don't know, but to me, I had like more overloaded, and I didn't give that overloaded bacteria food, like the sauerkraut will feed those bacteria. So once I figured out I was unbalanced, once I was balanced, it made the bloating go down a lot.
Yeah.
Basically, you have to kill it, and you have to
For your gender, it's like a bacteria in your stomach, you get in your stomach lining. Yeah, and that's antibiotics, did you have to use that?
No, we did no antibiotics. We tried that, that was from an MD, naturopath. We did other natural things.
Yeah, but think about that. Like, because
it's so frustrating, because if you don't know that, you know what you're eating, and why can't I lose this, why am I fat? It's not fat, I mean, literally, I said, why does air doesn't weigh? And he said, well, yes, it does. During inflammation, it's inflammation.
Yes.
In your gut,
so that,
I didn't mean to take over.
no, that's such an important point though, because when you think about like where I'm at, right, in my age, and how I'm caring for myself now, if I didn't do the things to care for myself, and this goes for any age that you're at, you're gonna be affected with things. And maybe something you were doing that you had a sensitivity to caused that initially, and then it was just, you couldn't get rid of it because it was like a constant state of inflammation. And that affects your body in so many different areas too.
That's absolutely true. And one of the things was my digestive enzymes were insufficient. So for some reason, my pancreas was not producing enough digestive enzymes, and that was allowing the bacteria to grow, and it caused a couple of different types of bacteria. Anyway, so I'm just saying, don't think it's always calories.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because there could be underlying issues for sure.
But you have to dig, you have to keep going until somebody listens to you and says, well, this makes sense.
Yeah. You are your own advocate. Like nobody else is gonna fight for you, and in that sense of like, when something's off. right? And again, a lot of doctors, they do just write it off as, you know, changes, women changes as they're aging, like, it is what it is.
Oh, well, here's a script.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
You know,
Yeah,
okay. Good.
but
I'm not
try,
saying medical or science is not good, I'm just saying.
Right.
yeah, oh, for sure,
You
yeah,
gotta fight yourself.
yes. And just trying to figure out, get to the root cause of maybe what the issues are, and you are the only one who can really advocate for yourself, not only to your doctors or your care, but to you. And sometimes that's the hardest part, because we have that inner battle. Any other questions? Okay, well, you guys all got a paper. We do, if you're interested in a consultation or anything like that in regards to nutrition coaching, fitness coaching. We have coaches, myself and other certified helpers. If you're ever interested in that. And I just thank you for being here today. And if there are questions you didn't get answered or still want to ask, you can reach out to me directly on social media or email Ohana or ask me after. But thank you.